For 70 years, the rhythmic click of a specific heel against marble floors signaled the arrival of the most famous woman in the world. While historians analyze her speeches and fashion critics dissect her hats, the true foundation of Queen Elizabeth II's reign was quite literally beneath her feet. She stood on balconies, walked through Commonwealth jungles, and navigated miles of palace corridors, often standing for hours at a time without a single stumble or grimace of pain. The secret to this endurance wasn't just royal fortitude, it was a feat of bespoke engineering hidden inside a seemingly simple black pump. Most people assume royal fashion is purely about aesthetics, a display of wealth and tradition designed to dazzle the public. However, when it came to the late Queen's footwear, the priority was military-grade practicality disguised as elegance. These were not merely accessories, they were the tools of her trade, as essential to her role as a stethoscope is to a doctor. Every stitch, every layer of leather, and every millimetre of heel height was calculated to prevent the one thing a monarch cannot afford: a moment of weakness. Behind the scenes, a small army of craftsmen and dedicated staff maintained a system so rigorous it bordered on obsession. From secret breaking in rituals that sound like a fairy tale gone wrong, to a refusal to discard shoes that were decades old, the story of these shoes reveals the deeply practical, almost industrial approach Elizabeth II took toward her job. She viewed herself less as a fashion icon and more as a workman putting on a uniform. Today, we are opening the royal wardrobe to inspect the engineering marvels that carried the monarchy through 7 decades of change. We are looking past the jewels and the crowns to the leather and wood that grounded a reign. These are the hidden mechanics of royal duty, revealed through the most overlooked item in the Queen's closet. Number 10. The Royal Breaker-In. It sounds like a rumour invented by the tabloids, but it is a verified fact that Queen Elizabeth II never wore a new pair of shoes for the first time herself. The risk of a blister or a pinch was considered a threat to state business. If the Queen was in pain, her focus could waver during a diplomatic greeting or a crucial ceremony. To eliminate this variable, Buckingham Palace employed a specific staff member, often her personal dresser, to physically break in the shoes for her. This was not a casual task, but a designated duty requiring the staff member to wear beige cotton ankle socks and walk only on the carpeted floors of the Queen's private apartments. The staff member selected for this task had to have feet of the exact same size as the Queen, which was a British size 4. This Cinderella figure would wear the new pumps during their daily tasks to soften the stiff leather and mould the shape to a human foot before the monarch ever slipped them on. This ensured that from the very first moment the Queen stepped out in public, the shoes were already comfortable, flexible, and safe. It was a luxury born of necessity, ensuring that the physical distraction of foot pain never compromised the dignity of the crown. Number 9. The 4-person team. While modern luxury brands churn out thousands of pairs of shoes a day on assembly lines, the Queen's footwear was the product of a slow, archaic, and intensely personal process. For decades, her shoes were crafted by the Kensington-based firm Anello and Davide. This was not a simple transaction where a stylist picked a pair off a shelf. Instead, a dedicated team of 4 distinct craftsmen was responsible for the creation of every single pair. Each member of this team had a specialized role: the clicker who cut the leather, the closer who stitched the upper, the maker who attached the sole, and the finisher who polished and perfected the final product. This division of labor ensured that every stage of construction was handled by an expert in that specific nuance of shoemaking. They worked from a specific wooden mold of the Queen's foot, ensuring that the dimensions never varied by even a fraction of an inch. This relationship was so close that when the Queen needed a fitting, the team would travel to Buckingham Palace for a private session. This wasn't just shopping, it was a technical consultation to ensure the equipment was ready for the rigours of royal duty. Number 8. The wooden last. At the heart of this bespoke process was an object that few people ever saw: the wooden last. A last is a mechanical form that mimics the human foot, used by cordwainers to shape the leather. The Queen's lasts were carved from hornbeam wood, chosen for its density and resistance to warping over time. These wooden feet were kept under lock and key at the workshop, treated as state secrets. They were updated as the Queen aged, accounting for the natural changes in the shape and arch of her feet over the decades. What makes this particularly fascinating is the specificity of the design. The Queen required a distinct heel grip to prevent any slippage, a wider bridge for stability, and a specific toe box shape that never pinched. These wooden effigies of the royal feet allowed the craftsmen to work remotely without needing the monarch to be present for every adjustment. It was a system of trust and precision, ensuring that whether she was in London or on a royal tour in Australia, a replacement pair could be crafted that would fit perfectly without a single trial run. Number 7. The forensic heel height. Fashion trends for women's shoes have fluctuated wildly over the last century, from the stilettos of the 50s to the platforms of the 70s. However, the Queen's silhouette remained frozen in time, dictated by a strict mathematical formula. Her heel height was non-negotiable, exactly 2¼ inches. This was not an aesthetic choice, but a calculated decision based on biomechanics and stability. A higher heel would strain the calf and back during long periods of standing. A lower heel might lack the formal elevation required for her stature. The heel itself was often a block style or a slightly tapered, chunky heel, never a stiletto. This provided a wider surface area for contact with the ground, crucial for walking on grass at garden parties, navigating cobblestones, or climbing steep aircraft stairs. The stability of the 2¼ inch heel allowed her to maintain her posture without shifting her weight visibly, a key component of her composed public image. It was a triumph of function over fashion, creating a silhouette that became iconic precisely because it never changed. Number 6. The secret sole. One of the most dangerous hazards for a public figure is a slip or a fall. For a monarch, a fall is not just embarrassing, it projects frailty. To mitigate this risk, the soles of the Queen's shoes were engineered with specific modifications. While they appeared to be standard leather soles, they often included a thin rubber insert or were scored to provide extra grip. Furthermore, the Queen insisted on a relatively thin sole rather than a thick platform. This allowed her to feel the ground beneath her feet, providing sensory feedback that helped her navigate uneven terrain with confidence. This ground feel is a concept usually discussed in athletic performance, yet it was central to the Queen's ability to walk gracefully well into her 90s. By avoiding thick, clunky soles, she maintained a proprioceptive connection to the floor, allowing her body to make micro-adjustments to balance automatically. It was a subtle design choice that allowed her to move with a steadiness that belied her age, proving that the most important safety features are often the ones you cannot see. Number 5. The repair economy. In an era of disposable fashion, Queen Elizabeth II was a radical conservationist. She did not discard her shoes. Instead, she operated a rigorous repair economy that saw pairs last for decades. When the heels wore down or the leather scuffed, they were sent back to the workshop for refurbishment. The craftsman would replace the heel tips, re-dye the leather, and insert new insoles. It was not uncommon for the Queen to wear a pair of shoes that she had originally purchased 20 years prior. This practice was partly due to her wartime upbringing, where make, do, and mend was a national slogan, but it was also a matter of comfort. A well-worn shoe that has molded to the foot is infinitely more comfortable than a stiff new one. By constantly repairing her trusted favorites, she avoided the discomfort of breaking in new leather. This cycle of repair also speaks to her character. Despite having access to unlimited resources, she preferred the reliability of the familiar over the allure of the new. Number 4. The color match. While the structure of the shoe was rigid, the aesthetic required a chameleon-like adaptability. The Queen was famous for her monochromatic outfits. Bright coats in lime green, fuchsia, or canary yellow, designed to make her visible in a crowd. However, finding shoes to match every single shade of wool would have been a logistical nightmare. The solution was the workman shoe in black patent, but also a reliance on neutral leathers that could be dyed. For silver, gold, or white occasions, the shoes were often made of satin or calf leather that was dyed to match her handbags perfectly. This coordination was not accidental. The Queen's dressers would send a swatch of the fabric from her coat or gown to the shoemakers, who would then mix dyes to achieve an exact hexadecimal match for the leather. This created a seamless visual line that is a hallmark of royal style. Even when she wore black shoes, the finish was critical, usually patent leather, which requires less polishing and resists scuffs better than matte leather, ensuring she looked pristine from the first handshake to the last. Number 3. The Coronation secret. While her work shoes were simple black pumps, the most significant pair of shoes she ever wore were the ones crafted for her coronation in 1953. Designed by the legendary French shoemaker Roger Vivier, these shoes were a departure from her usual austerity. They were made of gold soft kid leather and encrusted with rubies. But the true secret of these shoes lay in the hidden engineering. Vivier knew the Queen would be standing for hours under the weight of the St. Edward's crown and heavy robes. To assist her, he designed a heel that was solid and supportive, but he disguised its bulk with a decorative motif. He also incorporated a hidden platform inside the shoe to cushion the ball of the foot. The rubies were real, but the comfort technology was the true luxury. These shoes were never worn for a standard engagement. They were a ceremonial tool designed for a singular, grueling event. They remain one of the few pairs where the Queen allowed opulence to share the stage with practicality. Number 2. The workman philosophy. The most revealing fact about the Queen's shoes is the name she gave them. She did not refer to them as her heels or her pumps. She referred to her standard black Anello and Davide shoes as her work shoes. This linguistic choice offers a profound insight into her psychology. She compartmentalized her life into on-duty and off-duty. When she was at Balmoral or Sandringham, she wore wellies and brogues. But when she put on the black patent pumps, she was clocking in. This mental separation allowed her to endure the tedious aspects of her role. The shoes were part of the uniform of the monarch, just as a soldier straps on boots. By viewing them as equipment rather than fashion, she detached her personal vanity from her public appearance. It didn't matter if high heels were in style or if square toes were out, she wore the uniform. This consistency became a source of comfort for the nation. A visual anchor that suggested the monarchy, like the shoes, was stable, reliable, and unchanging. Number 1. The zero blister record. Perhaps the most impressive statistic regarding Queen Elizabeth II's footwear is a medical one. There is virtually no record of her suffering from foot-related ailments that typically plague women who wear heels daily. Bunions, blisters, and corns were conspicuously absent from her medical history. This was the ultimate validation of the entire system: the wooden lasts, the breaking-in assistant, the custom measurements, and the strict heel height. By prioritizing biomechanical function over aesthetic form, she preserved her mobility until the very end of her life. In her final years, when mobility became an issue, she was seen using a walking stick, but she was rarely seen in orthopedic shoes. She stuck to her modified pumps for as long as possible because they were engineered correctly from the start. It is a testament to the idea that if you take care of the foundation, the structure will stand. Her shoes were not just accessories, they were the unsung heroes of a 70-year reign, silently bearing the weight of the crown step after step. We often look at history through the lens of great battles and signed treaties, but sometimes the most telling story is found in the humblest details. Queen Elizabeth II's shoes were a microcosm of her entire approach to queenship, preparation, practicality, and a refusal to let personal discomfort interfere with duty. She understood that to lead a nation, you first have to be able to stand on your own 2 feet. Literally. Do you think this level of meticulous, almost industrial preparation is something we have lost in our modern, fast-paced leadership culture, or was it a unique quirk of her generation? I'd love to hear your thoughts on whether the workman approach to royalty is gone forever. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the hidden mechanics of royal life, hitting the like button helps us uncover more stories like this that usually go unnoticed. And for more investigations into the fascinating history of the British monarchy, make sure you're subscribed. We have a video coming up on the secret security protocols of the royal train that you won't want to miss. I'll see you in the next one.